We're on page Reish Nun Gimel. Reish Nun Beis, sorry. 286. And 286 in English. Okay. Tzarech la'ango b'dagim gedolim v'roshei shunim. We should be maneg Shabbos with large fish and cloves of garlic, heads of garlic. I remember when my brother had his opportunity in the Cornell. He was in Cornell, and he was in the it was the Young Israel house where the Jews lived, and they would take turns like making recipes for everyone else. And so he had an opportunity to cook my mother's famous chicken Kiev for all 30 or 40 of the students who were part of that community. And whatever the recipe was, it was for certain cloves of garlic, and he chose, instead of cloves of garlic, entire garlic. So let's say there was 8 cloves of garlic.
No, 8.
So is that everybody was throwing out? Nobody wanted to taste their food.
I love garlic with that.
That's when you cook it, it doesn't have that strong of a fragrance. I mean,
Right, but there's a certain amount.
Like how
a lot of garlic.
And did he leave it in the skins, or did he take it out?
He chopped it up and cooked it inside.
Oh yeah,
that's
I like garlic, so I think it really was good.
Anyway, so Novakim, which is the city that the Rav lived in, Shalom Yamim, Nitim Hayalim, so Amnam, at Marbitam Tzachim, Sherim Mudarim. You had, I guess, many needs that were found through many different, very illustrious kashrus organizations. But not all of them. Dagim Chayim Mashal, whole fish, you want to buy live fish, Lo Nitin Hayalasig Bayara Deromid. Pinkus was not happy because whatever it was, the fish monger there wasn't under a certification that he was comfortable with. Now, by the way, just so you should know, so when it comes to fish, there's a lot of leeway, halacha, because if you buy kosher fish and use your own kosher knife, there's really very little you can do to it. It's cold. It's pretty good. Some people used to bring like their own knife and cutting board to the fish store. Now you don't really have to do that, but you know, I assume there's a different quality in fish between what you'll get in a jewel and what you'll get elsewhere. So I like the jewel fish.
You mean they would go to like just a fish, like a
right? So you make sure you're not eating calamari or something like that. You have to give your own knife and your own cutting board, but it's fine. And then when they're filleting salmon for you, you have to make sure they leave one layer on so you can see the scales.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or you could observe them cut it and hand it to you and wrap it up, which is also fine.
So what about if they've already descaled it? I mean, they take the scales off.
So there are different opinions about whether, you have to understand pink is not a natural color. Salmon in the wild is not pink. It's pink because they feed it these pellets in these little aquariums where they spawn them. Yeah. I learned all about this in my kashrus.
What about like when you buy, fresh fish that's not the wild fresh salmon? Is that also?
You have to have some scales on it to know what it is.
No, but I'm saying that they feed it these pink pellets.
Most of the salmon we're eating anyway, if it is a darker pink, it was fed these certain types of foods. Yeah.
So my best friend who's not Jewish, so her husband works for, I forget what it is, but he works for this big food distributor company, and he's in charge of fish and meats.
Mm-hmm.
So I could technically one day just say, bring me home a salmon.
Yeah, if it's a whole fish, why not? Right.
Yeah, but you have to clean the scales, and you have to.
You'd have to assume that if it's that also in these large manufacturers, very easy to master them. Like when you, and I actually think it's very good quality when you buy in a Sam's Club. Like the frozen salmon fillets, they're really good quality because what they do is they catch it and they immediately freeze it, and that's why the quality is like it's fresh.
But those are pink. Those are pink, dark pink.
Yeah.
So
why is it so different than asking them to bring you a chicken?
Are you gonna check?
Because
it?
You have to chef the chicken.
why
Chicken requires shechita.
why
Fish
doesn't-
don't. Fish is have to be killed. I have a great grandmother who used to when they would catch the fish, they would get the fish. They would, I guess someone would catch fish and she would kill the fish and prepare it, but she always felt really bad about killing the fish, so she would put a blanket over its eye before. Last week. Okay, so anyway, so Rav Pincus was not, I guess, satisfied with the hechsher in this fish store. There was the hechsher asher iniach daito shel Rav Pincus etzal rab mitoshvei ofakim hishtamshu b'chol hakorcham beketzitzas dagim kenuyot otan nite osan nisein haya la'asig makolat hechsher mudarim. And I guess many of the people of Ofakim would were engaged in what in buying cut up or cutting them the fish themselves. So it was
ready-made gefilte fish.
ready. Ketzitzot. Right.
Shabbos.
Right.
We are the only people alive on the planet that still eat
It's still eating.
jar fish.
Shellfish. Yeah. Ulam. No sardines. Sardines are also in jar. Who zatzal savar ki ein zu kvod Shabbos. He felt it wasn't proper Shabbos. Kavod the Shabbos. Im efshar yesh lachin et hadagim b'bayit dafka. You should prepare the fish yourself. Lachushis mitzikos achana, to experience the sweetness of preparing fish, which no one's ever uttered that before. Lo lirchosh ochal muchan shechaser bo. Also portov shel lachluchit kedusha v'kavana lechavot Shabbos. Right, not to not to just simply bring home prepared food, processed food, right? But rather to experience the element of the drop of kedusha and the kavana, the intent of kavod Shabbos. Achein ha'adava isa berura, hanachitzos chad mashmoit ulam ma lasot v'dagim ksherim einam bari hasaga be'ofakim. What did he do if he didn't have the availability of these fish? Achein harabanit hatzidkanit aleh l'shalom matzah pitaron mushlam. His wife found a solution. What was that? He argana mishloch shivui shel dagim chaim tchunim. She arranged a delivery of live fish every and I guess or cut up fish as well. Yeshem Yerushalayim, which came straight from Jerusalem. Kasher at these damnu taita minatzelet lamaisa. I guess times are different. Availability, right, was not the same. Lamaisa chaser nifla im tojvei ofakim kulam, and it was really prepared for all the people of ofakim. They should have fish. Yadu kol b'nei akila ki chol hachefetz b'dagim. They knew they could. He meant an order, an order sheet. Whoever's ordering fish this week will get it. Muftach lo yagiu beitam bizmanam. It would approach them. It would arrive in the right time. Kasher rabanit leitim afilu arav ma'atzmo kashim levasar ki yagiu adagim lechavot Shabbos. They knew that it would arrive for Shabbos. V'chinitim lavo lokablam v'vayit mishpacha pinkas asher afach lemeshech shaot. So this is what they would arrange. They would arrange for a special delivery at their house. So I guess it would happen often that one of his kids would go to his house, the house of an avrech, who was ben Torah, a young man who was studying Torah, who would order fish. And hitmahama milach chasam, and I guess he would, it was delayed. Yeah, so the Yelad Odia ki hazmana igia lechavot Shabbos, that the order arrived. The order rab mamtim lo lamata lehemshech haderech lebeit nosaf. So what was happening? The Rav would be waiting below by the path. For the I guess for the
Before he go to the next building, he would wait for them
right.
to come down.
Chesed the Shabbos nifgeshu bevayit rabba shel kilot ofakim. I guess he would do these chasadim, these acts of kindness. Kedarko shel Rabbi Shimshon letavel et kol maasav lekosram betalitlim shel mitzvos deorais derabanan. So he found any way to connect a chain of mountains of mitzvot to be able to do all sorts of things. Shabbos, Chesed, Shabbos, Kiyu Mitzvah, Devein Adam L'Chavero, Ben Adam L'Makom, Nigla and Ister, revealed and hidden, chitzonot pnimot, outside, internal mitzvot, pashtos, v'amkos, simple mitzvos and deep mitzvos. In other words, everything he felt was part of this worldview of everything we're doing is part of a mitzvah. It's an interesting approach. Like if you walked around all day long, not just like, oh, I have a mitzvah due at that time, and I have this to it, this. I mean, the rest of the day, I'm just gonna, live my life. But he felt like his whole life was like one connected series of mitzvot connected to one another. Gam kasher nasab yom shishi lamav yalik not chalot l'chavos. And you go to the bakery, purchase chalos, nitzalet his damnut kidei lahosif. Old Masa chesed, if he'd find an opportunity to do another chesed. Ane get shavasam shel Yehudim ben nosavim. How do I give joy to other Jews? Hey,
No, on the computer.
oh,
You saw that.
I'm sorry.
I just see a blue.
Robin, I didn't know how long you were waiting. I'm sorry. Okay. Robin, do you hear us?
I don't hear you.
Oh, do you hear us now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. I don't know how long you were waiting. I apologize. I didn't see the screen, the sign on the screen.
I was just ready to WhatsApp you, so thank you.
Okay, great. So, so he would find different opportunities to do chasadim with his Shabbos prep. He'd go to the bakery. Ayu elu shtenim hasmuchim lemono. Od Yehudim mitoshekila. Vito, Miriam Sham's daughter who had passed away. Miriam Haisa nigeshet el shchenim yom shishi. Should go to the neighbors on Friday. Mivareret ma birtzonam lahazmin mafia. What do you want to order? I'm going to the bakery. Would you like alachar mikan nasak b'chlodavatmo v'rachashet kamot hadrusha? In other words, he didn't feel, despite his position of being head of a yeshuv, that these kind of acts were beneath him. Yeshuv hamachzeh metuar le'el b'nogea l'dagim aturim hayachozer al atzmo v'shat ba higiu ashkenim litol et minei hamafal l'chavot Shabbos Kodesh. So this is part of the Maaser Rav. There is actually a whole genre of svarim called Maaser Rav, which is descriptions of the way people would be manhig, how they conduct themselves. Someone wrote one about Rav Soloveitchik. There's about the Vilna Gaon, and usually it's filled with stories from which we learn hanhagos tovos and minhagim, as well as the way person paskin b'halacha from these things. Actually, it's considered part of the halachic realm, not just stories. Maislach, which is interesting. Rav Schechter felt that people telling stories about Rav Soloveitchik was not appropriate. Just telling stories, he felt it had to be under the guise of his practice, his minhagim. So he wrote these 3 volumes actually, Nefesh Rav, Rav, and Divrei Rav. That these are books basically about the Rav and his hanhagos and his rulings and his halachic statements and his hashkafic statements. But it tells a story of a person, but more from the ish halacha as opposed to from the narrative and the biographical sketch. And then their biographical sketches are of Soloveitchik also. So I think what they're trying to do is the former, the latter.
Is Ofakim totally religious?
No, it's both Chiloni and Haredi. It's not a real Dati Lumi presence. You have extremes of, and a lot of the Haredi communities that moved into Yeshuvim found the very less expensive communities to move into. And that's really like actually doing it in America also. Look at Cincinnati, look at other communities that are now Detroit originally, and Detroit's probably more expensive now, but Cincinnati, right? And you have much smaller, let's say, modern Orthodox presence. When these communities are more expensive, you'll find like those who are like Skokie, Teaneck, or things like that. You have a variety, 5 towns. But so that's what happened in Ofakim. Anyway, so Rava Malach Shibuta. This is a Gemara in Shabbos. Gam Malach is a Bais, Afil Malach is a Mitbach, even in the kitchen. Hayanotel Chelak Midei Erev Shabbos B'Shabbato. He felt that this was all part of his avoda for Shabbos. So, can I take some coffee?
Oh, please.
Thank you.
Some half and half.
Yes, please.
Half. One, two.
Well, start with normal, see what happens. See how cases.
Live on the wild side.
Says Karen about spoons. The spoons here, Karen.
There's a knife.
It's good. It's good. It'll mix it. Chemical has to mix throughout first. So so the malachos that kfuos, so Shem Yufedet Hayulo. There were many malachot that were special that were his. Alain who lo viter, he wouldn't let anyone do it, whether it's for the relatovat hebait. Afilu yesh lo kama avadim shamshol. Even if you have this is actually a gemara. Even if you have many servants to work for you, you should do it yourself. By the way, it's also a midos thing, right? We shouldn't live a life of service where everybody does stuff for us. People are very handy; they like to do things themselves. It's not about the cost, right? Sometimes it's actually cheaper and smarter for me to hire someone to do something. But I like taking things apart and then leaving it there for like a month. Then that's
Aggravating your wife.
it's one of my favorite activities to do. I love taking apart computers. I love this stuff.
Oh, gosh. You ever get them back together?
Yes, I'm very yes. They don't work afterwards, but so
Details, detail.
yeah, but no, but I like the Gemara talks about this idea that even if you have many people who can do things for you, and but this is lost, I think, on the newer generation of wealth.
Mhm.
And we say wealth, I mean, look at how quickly. Oh, I have a person to do it. And you call someone in
Right.
because it's easy and probably just smarter in terms of and more efficient. And obviously, there's a balance in life. You have to be happy and you have to be efficient, but there is some merit to getting your hands dirty, to be able to work yourself on things. I don't want to gut the fish, but there are things that I like doing. He would personally cut up vegetables, dak. Rabbi Yosef, they would chop the wood. Rabbi Zera madlika eish. Reb Nachman hayamatakin abayis. Umachnis kalim matzrichim l'Shabbos mefanek liachol. When we were building the shul, I wanted to have a role in the foundation. They were building a frame for the foundation. They were going to pour the cement. So I asked the construction worker if I could hammer the big nail in. He said, sure. And I bent it. And I did it again. I bent it. He said, I'll do it.
Nice job.
Get out of here.
First, I landed on my thumb. Okay, so no, not that inept. But anyway, so Rabbi Yosef, Hayamavak and Eitzin to chop the wood themselves, prepare the fire, talking about Machnis Kalim, bring the Shabbos Day Kalim in, bring out. Now, think about it, you didn't have these giant kitchens, so you would have to bring in things that were using on Shabbos and bring out the chol, like it was like Pesach prep, right?
Mhm.
Like I have a whole thing with the bread, right? The bread machine, right? So I'll bring it in, we store it away, we don't have room for it. And then every week we bring it in. There's certain and you can be mechaven. Those things are really Shabbos activities, right? Like this is all lechavot Shabbos. When you do those things, get in the practice of saying lechavot Shabbos. My rabbi told me his father used to polish his shoes, and he'd go lechavot Shabbos Kodesh, each one. So you can do the same thing. You could say it's a mitzvah, or you could just do it and say that's annoying. I have to do it. You have to focus those energies.
What if you just think it? I'm cleaning this for
It's
Shabbos.
It's fine. There's no you have to say lechavot Shabbos, but the point is you're doing lechavot Shabbos, right?
Mhm.
Right. You're elevating the experience beforehand. Umehem yilamed kol adam v'lo yomar lo efgom bichlodi. Don't say, I'm not going to diminish my own honor. Hizel kvodo shemechaved hashabbos. This is the Shulchan Aruch. This is Shulchan Aruch Siman Reish Nun Sif Aleph we just read. Don't say, it's beneath me. This is not the activity that someone who of my stature engages in. I've heard people brag, got someone to do that for me. Like, why would I do it myself? Like so it's a pride. The pride is to do it yourself for Shabbos. There's nothing more special than someone who has a lot of resources, financial resources and connections, and they show up to set up a program. I love that. And only in a Jewish community you see that. It's a beautiful thing. I'm worried we're going to lose it with the next generation. I am worried. But you do find that tmimus, that beauty of this, all hands on deck. We're all involved in this. The many things that he would do, Rav Shimshon Pincus would do by himself, like preparing hachanas dud hamayim. He would love filling up the hot water urn for Shabbos. That's my job also in the house. It's one of my jobs. Yesh tzayin hidud mayim cham hayimucham bebeit harab yemot hakayitz acham meod b'daram haaretz b'diuk kmo b'yemot hachoraf. There was always hot water, whether it was the summer or the winter. This is the south; it's very hot there. Zot charaf Ha'uvda shekimat ein bo mi shechpotz b'Shabbos me'ein zu b'kos teh. Who wants a cup of tea on Shabbos in the summer? Turns out it's actually, I like it on hot day, but okay, some people don't. And
Yeah, but you have air conditioning.
right, I like it. I like
It
it.
may
I
not.
like hot tea outside. Also cools. I feel like it cools me off.
Mm.
But it's not as popular. Put it that way. And amayim achamim aleinu la'achin l'chavod Shabbos af im bepol ish lo yaseh b'hem shimush. Even if you think no one's going to do it, hayamav here. Le'itim no saying haya limtzois harab b'chvodo v'atzmo omed mitbach be'erev Shabbos Kodesh u'madiach kelim. He was washing vessels, washing kelim. Nakela she'er ki meshach yimot hashavua lo nir ata demuto shel rab mitbach. Shekina rab. No, he probably in their division of his home. I don't know who's writing this, probably his son. But he says that he wasn't regular, that he was washing dishes in the kitchen. That wasn't in their division of labor. He wasn't doing it. But on Erev Shabbos, he was exclusively him. He felt that he was Kasos Maria Carvala and bias. She wouldn't let him do it, but on Erev Shabbos he needed to. Erev Shabbos Amad I actually think that for your average person who's not running a yeshuv, it's important to divide up that labor however you see fit in home. I don't think it's like there's exclusive that one does dishes, one does garbage, one does you figure out what works for you best. Hakbadim yuchadet haisak lo Pal yavor bechnisat Shabbos iser b'shum ofen lahashir kelim bilti shetofim shtufim b'mitbach kol tzarich liot naki mitzuk tzach likrot boa shel malka Shabbos Kodesh. Everything had to be clean and shining coming to Shabbos. B'tkubat migurav b'tifrach haisa kaviva alav malacha nosevet l'chavos. He loved something else. Asak ba begufa. He do it personally. Dirato zu beotam yamim lo haisa merut sefet. Aritzpa shaisa asuya mivton. Is that some sort of material, plastic? No, tile.
This wasn't tiled. It was not tiled as used to be common as right. It was just simple cement.
Oh, cement floor. So miteva hadvarim lo haisa chalaka me uktzat chalaka. It wasn't smooth. Umukatzat. It was filled with cracks. Yeah. V'haisa maleach haritzim. L'chavod Shabbos Kodesh b'chol yom shishi ha'mefazer chol. He would spread the soap, liquid detergent al pnei haritzpa. B'chdei lahanikla mare yashar mechubad. That it should look nicer.
Isn't full sand?
Yeah, it said he was putting sand on it
Why sand?
to make it
To
smooth.
fill in
So
the
it's
crack.
filling the crack,
Oh, interesting.
but then it's like
That's
walking on sand.
what's interesting is one of the malachos of Shabbos is pouring like sand into cracks in the ground, because they used to have their floors in their homes were actually earth. And so Mashra Gomos, you're not allowed to fill in holes on Shabbos because it's like binyan. It's binyan mekarkas. You're building holes, you're building mountains. So one's not allowed to do that. Hayam mefazer chol, he would spread the sand and fill in the cracks. Avrech ploni rechesh sadira. When our Rebbe was there, when he moved to Ofakim from wherever this place was, Tifra. So move on. Erech ba shiputzim. There were obviously repairs that were taking place, or improvements. Vein hashar ritzef as a dira b'mitzefet neot. He put nice floors. Usiper kipam is damein Rav Pinkus leveso miyad kasher ha'ivchin beritzuf hechdish hitkar fanav. I guess his face became, amar be'ironia, ironically, benusach ofanish lo masita. What'd you do? Harastis as a bais, you destroyed the house. Now I don't have that opportunity to put sand in the cracks. L'chavos Shabbos, you've ruined it for me.
What did he put on the floor?
I guess he put a nice floor down, put nice tiles.
He said when they moved, someone else moved in, they did
Renovated.
renovations, and one thing they did was put down a proper floor.
Oh, from his old home, from his old home.
In
Oh,
the
for
one
his-
in Tifra. once
That's
they
great.
moved
That's
to
fantastic.
Fakim. So when he visited, then he was like, "Oh,
Ah.
you ruined the floor.
You ruined my
You
floor.
ruined the house."
Yavor Rebbe Shimshon lo haya mushlam yoter masher ritzpat baton pshuta. From he wasn't. It's not just that a simple cement floor. Pshuta mesaderet maser lo shel his tapkut bimuat. We also learned the second idea that he was happy with the simple things. Gam she'efshar l'kayim darka b'dei shavua kavod Shabbos malkasa. Yes, you could do things for Kavod Shabbos, but lefazer aleh chol ashvez pnei haritzpa umanik la mare shabbati, to create a more Shabbos atmosphere. this to him was a simple, obvious thing to do, and he wasn't like he didn't. He wasn't overwhelmed with the need to get fancier things. He was a simple Jew in that sense. I was describing we were trying to sell our other house when we needed to move. We had a nice kitchen, but there was one sink, and and we couldn't newlywed couples who were buying their first house. The thing for them was no, I need two sinks. I couldn't do it, and we were thinking there's even two ovens that whoever put in the house had two ovens. I was thinking in my head like, how many dingy apartments I went through before I was able to get to a place like this in my life. Like that is totally lost. That idea that you go through a period of trying to get, of building yourself up, and it's not simple. And some people go their whole lives without owning the property, and that's actually normal. They live good lives. There's a certain arrogance that's set in that this story I think really highlights.
Says, and it enables its owner to honor Shabbos by spreading the sand over the.
Enables what?
It's what it says here. It enables it. The rabbi wasn't. He said nothing was more perfect than living a modest living, and
Mhm.
enables to its owner to honor Shabbos each week by spreading sand. But I'm picturing like if Hashem was coming to visit, wouldn't you want your home like if you can have a nice floor, put down a nice floor?
But that's what he thought of as a nice floor.
Right.
He
His
thought
his
spreading the
orientation
sand-
was if I could fill in with the sand, I'm honoring the Shabbos queen. I'm like, that's was his idea. Right. I'll give you a story. This happened to me. I was visiting with Yeshiva Bachar. We used to travel out of Yeshiva for Shabbos to have different experiences. And we went up north to Sfat for Shabbos. We had no plan. We didn't know where we were staying. We just figured we'd go on the street and we'd ask around. That's what you do when you're young.
Wow.
And someone invited us in for a meal. And then we got another invite the next day, and they were so happy to have guests. And they were so poor, like tiny little nothing apartment. They divide between rooms by hanging up these these things. What are they that divide?
Yes.
Beads
Yeah.
in like different sections. And they put out their different stuff for us. And they had like different like cheap but reusable plastic cups and things like that. But for like they use like the nicest plastic cups for the two guests. None of them matched. And the kids were like, ooh, you got the special ones, you got the good ones. I remember thinking like, our families, we know they would never dare put something like this out during the week but they felt they were giving us, and there was a limited amount of food, and they made sure we had like more food. And it was like I felt so guilty being there. This is their greatest pleasure in the world. It was like to honor Shabbos, to honor their guests. And that's what it is. That's wealth. Wealth is samech l'chelka. Wealth is you're giving the best of what you have for Hashem, for mitzvos, for chesed. Tzaddikim like that don't exist. And again, maybe it's not the smartest, maybe it's not, maybe they could have done more, maybe it's not efficient. I assume they could be happier on a physical plane, but spiritually they seem very happy. And halavai, we should be on that level.
It's also what what you've grown up with, what you feel most comfortable with. I remember thinking new linoleum was the best
Yeah,
that
of
you
course.
could put on your floor. Like it's wow, isn't that special? Now it's like
Right. And this is a fancy linoleum right here, what you're looking at here.
right here.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is it really? It's one
It's a
piece.
fancy. This is all plastic. I mean, it's one piece, but
Vinyl.
it's vinyl. Yeah. Well, you can't make a dance floor today out of you wouldn't use wood
Wood.
anymore.
Why? It's too expensive.
It's too expensive. Its upkeep is ridiculous.
It's
This
too
gets
hard.
scratched. This
But
does get scratched.
Is this one sheet or is this?
No, I think
pieces they put
I
in
assume it's
pieces?
multiple pieces. I remember when they did it was different,
Uh-huh.
very sticky type of material.
I went to see one of my students who was teaching a lesson in one of our day schools, and there was a child with adaptive equipment, and he crashed into a table and knocked the leg off, and it fell. And one of the children said, "Don't worry, my Abba will come and fix it." And another one said, "We're Jews. We don't fix things. We hire people to
How
fix
old?
things."
How old are the kids?
8, third grade.
Right.
What an
It's
attitude.
amazing, and you never say that thing out loud, right? But the truth is, it's not just Jews. I mean, we're in a disposable society, and things are invented so cheap that it's made to purchase new and not repair. So that's also part of the cultural. It's not just the personal thing. There's also a general cultural reality is that it's actually cheaper often to buy new than it is to
Fix it.
repair.
Well, you can't. We just bought a new washing machine. Our other one was over 30 years old.
Yeah.
It was a Maytag. It was like unbelievably good,
Yeah, the same thing.
but you couldn't fix it because there was no
Right.
parts for something
Right.
that was that old.
Some
My
of them do.
some of them are actually made better. My father likes to take the Norelco started having these batteries that were, I don't know, about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that were just part of the shaver, maybe 20 years ago now. And now you can't get an electric shaver with a battery that you replace the battery. It's all like all things. Right, like phones figure that out eventually also. And Norelco was the first one to be machadish this idea. You create planned obsolescence. So when the battery dies, you have to buy a new shaver. So he would take the whole thing apart, buy the battery from Radio Shack. God bless the Radio Shack, because that's like one
Oh,
place in the
yeah.
world that lets you do things like that. And he would replace it. And I remember this is like, I don't think he'd just buy a new one right now. Like he didn't want to give in to this culture of everything has to be replaced, everything has to be bought, and it was a perfectly good shaver, right?
I feel the same way. I try to fix things as much as I can rather than just dump it and get a new one.
Yeah. I had to get new winter boots because one of my boots froze and became hard as a rock. And I went online, how do you do it? Leather oils and things like that. It was impossible to fix.
I had
But-
where my zipper on my boot wouldn't
Yeah.
go. And I can't tell you how many different things I put on that zipper. And I finally got it open with WD.
WD-40. Oh, I'm gonna try that. So let's talk about one more section here. Tefillah lechavod Shabbos. Now we know the mitzvah of tefillah and mikvah, of course, is a mitzvah that's largely focused on taharat mishpacha for women, but in the Hasidic world, mikvah is a very essential. What men go either weekly to Erev Shabbos, or they will go daily. There's actually an interesting debate between the Hasidic world and the Litvish world and Misnagish world, whether, because one of the original innovations that Hasidim were doing is they were going to mikvah every day. And this is a debate Rav Shafter always points out, because if you're going to mikvah every day, that means that you were sort of, it would reveal certain things about your sort of marital habits if you're going every day. So the Hasidic response was, no one has to know anything. You go every day anyway. So that was the dusiach about everyday mikvah use. But lechavod Shabbos is a widespread thing, not just in the Hasidic world, but also in the yeshiva world as well. Many men will go every Erev Shabbos.
But every time they're with their wife, then they're gonna.
So that was the original. Thing, because what happened was it actually goes back to the Gemara. The Gemara says that that men are required for impurity of any form to go to the mikvah. And then Ezra established a long time ago that one has to do that. And then the Gemara says it was too much of a demand, so they just decided to change it to what's called 9 kappan of water, which is essentially like a 5-minute shower, right? So most of the world accepted that, and then the Hasidim said, no, we have to go back to the original takana, which is mikvah.
I thought it was just the time of the Beis Hamikdash that they hit, and then he had to go.
Well, that's where it came from. Ezra was the one who established it. Even when the Oli bubble came back, one of the innovations he established was that one. So the question is whether we insisted on mikvah or not. And by the way, it also factors into how we build men's mikvahs. Men's mikvahs are not necessarily precise to halacha in terms of the drawing of water and source, and whether it comes from a regular faucet or whether it comes directly from the roof, because of this halachic distinction. But yes, so the way it developed practically is that for most of the world, they didn't demand mikvah use, see them accept upon themselves an extra chumrah to always go to the mikvah, and then they said, okay, we're going to go every day anyway.
It's about impure to become pure.
Right.
Because that's interesting to me, because it makes it seem like sex is a very
Yeah, so maybe it's a little beyond the context here, but what I'll say is explain this to couples when for marriage, that we don't understand the definition of tuma and tahara, tuma and purity of kedusha. Kedusha means when potential is realized. Tuma is when potential is not realized. That's the definition in Judaism. So therefore, the ultimate tuma in the world, the avi avos hatuma, as they call it, is a dead body. Dead body can't do mitzvahs. That's when you go to a cemetery, you tuck in your tzitzis. You don't wear tefillin in a cemetery, right? Because you're mocking Lord Larash. They can't do mitzvahs. You're mocking them, right? Dafka, when someone's buried, a man is buried, they cut tzitzis and they put it in their hand in the tzitzis strand, and You know,
They put it in their hand?
Yeah, and then when the zombie apocalypse happens, they reach out and they grave with it. No,
What's in this?
it's a strand, like a cut.
So they put the tzitzis on.
Some have some Chapagisha, the practice of taking the strand that was cut off, and they put it in the hand of the mace. They were waiting to do mitzvahs again when the Tchias Mason. But anyway, that's why it's the chief tumah is potential, not realized. That's why tzaddikim, the Chazal say their graves are not matame. In theory, a Kohen can go to the grave of the Avot, the Mahot, because they're tzaddikim, because they realize their potential. Anyone who realizes your potential is not matame. You're only matame if you never realize your potential. That's everyone else. But now, practically, I don't think Kohanim go to Marat Machpelah, but there is grounds in halacha to say that they could. Okay, or the graves of Kedoshim. If people were martyred, they died. They died. Al Pi Kiddush Hashem. They're tzaddikim gemura. So let's say there's no tumah there, right? That's why they don't do tahara. They bury them in their clothing when they die. Al Pi Kiddush Hashem.
Really?
They may do a tahara, but I don't know if they. I don't. It's we learned this in Machane Shura when we went there, where they had the hundreds and hundreds of bodies there. That they actually buried them in the clothing. Those who weren't burnt, they buried them in the clothing they died in. Soldiers or civilians, whatever it is, because it's kedoshim. They're perfect. Yeah. I don't know if they do tahara or not, but they bury them in their clothing. So that's kedusha. That's sanctity. Now, therefore, the entire cycle, right? The entire cycle in a woman's monthly cycle yields impurity because it's life potential, unfertilized, unrealized. There's a natural emotional depression. There's a natural spiritual depression because it had so much potential. And then, right? Imagine, someone for 80, 90 years and they die. You're so sad, right? So life is lost. Well, this is potential life. And that's also sad. It's also sad. Even if you're not trying to get pregnant, it's sad. So that's why people feel sad. That's why people feel emotional about it. And that's why, and that's why it's tameh. So the same thing is true for men who have potential life, right? If there's if a husband and wife are intimate, and so there's potential life, there's millions of potential life that's lost. So every time there's tumah. So therefore, he is required to go to the mikveh, or at least as adjusted later as Ezra's takana, 9 kabin of water. I think they realized that it was too much to expect that frequency of visiting to the mikveh. And so that would be, I think, too onerous. But that's where the idea comes from. Potential life not realized. So, I explain this to couples because there's a large stigma around why should a woman be impure and not a man? The truth is it's not one or the other. It's both. And it's all about life potential unrealized. That's Kedusha.
She gives birth.
That's a good question. So while a woman's pregnant and she's not having her regular menstrual flow, she's not anita, and therefore she's not tmeah. But when she gives birth, so the rabbi said we're no longer experts in the difference between dam nida and dam leda. It really isn't dam nida, but we're not experts anymore, so we have to we treat strictly because we don't know the difference anymore. They used to be able to distinguish. So the tumah period in the Gemara is actually only in the Torah is only 7 days for a boy or 14 days for a girl, right? So the Torah says, and that has to do with the mourning of the loss of life that was internal. That was a special connection they had. But that's only biblical. Then on top of that, now we say no, we don't know which blood is what blood anymore. So we say lechumra. But then when she's nursing and she's no blood anyway, so she's not tameah the whole time after she was in mikvah one time anyway. So it's actually because there's no loss of life, and that's where it comes from. So that's the idea behind this in a nutshell. Anyway, okay. Let's see if we could do maybe one more paragraph. No, it's great stuff. Bereshis hakama kihila hayarak mikvah tahara echad smichot migurei bnei kihila. There's only one mikvah near them. Achlo aka shemikvah zeh haya nizgar b'shas tzarayim tamat. People usually go last minute before it closes. That's the way people behave. He was worried. He would wait for them and drive them home to their homes Kach haya chozer kama pamim, and he would go back and forth giving everyone rides so that everyone should be able to make it to the mikvah time. After Tkufa, Amar, today a rabbi can't drive his students to a bathhouse. She after lahamshich came the tzarach mikvah shalanu. At some point they said we need our own mikvah and our own yishuv. Asher bo yuchel itvo balo hagvala lachatz. We shouldn't have pressure of time. And huchlat al bniyat mikvah mitachas lebezek nes. They start to build a mikvah under the shul. Mikvah zeh tochnan al yedei echad avrechem b'nitzucho shel harav kasher hashakat hamikvah hamshachato nasit al yedei harav be'atzon im kevutzad avrechem sha'asu zot be'eser atzboseim. And therefore, he went out of his way with a group of avrechem to make this mikvah with their, it's an expression, their 10 fingers, meaning full, what?
By hand.
By hand, yeah. Agav im hashlamat mikvah hura lacharayim v'lo lachamem et mikvah yoter midai. And through the finishing this mikvah, kidei she'anashim lo yishu b'mikvah zman rav, mikvah tzarach likanes latzeis miyad. So what happened?
They have to
Heat it too much.
Yeah. If you make it too hot, people are gonna
go out really
do.
fast.
My kids do in the mikvah when I take them. They go and do somersaults and they swim for a while. Roy, let's sign ki al tvila zu be'erev Shabbos cannonball Shabbos Kodesh hikbid b'nesiras rabba vein the Yosef beveso vein jushuso begalus merchakim the meiser shayakacha. And here's the story, right? That the tvila of erev Shabbos was something that happened with great effort. Kasher nasal chutzlaretz. He traveled to outside of Israel. Mizgeret ma'aseh chesed mufla. He accompanied someone on a very important medical emergency to the Artsot Brit. He had a problem. Hashahut b'chutzlaretz klala gam im yom haShabbos ve'ilu ba'yara bo shekain beis hacholim bo hitbatzea tipul lo nitin hayel imtzo mikvah. They couldn't find a mikvah. What do you do? They went to the water, I guess the shore, the Merchak Rav which was, I guess, a far drive from where they were.
I've never did it in this.
Yeah. His feet are gonna go in the mud and the sand, and he won't be able to. I guess I don't know.
Quicksand.
Yeah. Where's that? I don't know where this is. Okay. Where
Seashore.
is he in the Amazon forest? Rock ben. That's where the best doctors are. Rock benes gamor ala biyado miraculously got out of the sand. L'shuv elchov mitachim latzilas nafsho. L'yamim kishnishal ma chashav be'oto zman. What do you think while that was happening? While he was caught in some sort of current or whatever it was? Sipur shis belibo shim matzei l'chol pachod nitin liyeh lavio el kever Yisrael. And he was davening at least that if I'm found and they bring me to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. It's interesting how you adjust your tefillos based on your circumstance, right?
He was by himself when he went there.
Yeah, like I was just thinking, like feeling bad, like as I was going through my tefillos in my head today, and I was thinking about all cholim and other things like that were going on. I was trying to really focus, and at some point, some nonsense thing popped in my head. And I was fighting so hard not to think about that, like it was so irrelevant, so trivial, whatever it was. And I was thinking, like, based on our circumstances and our age and our maturity, our definition of urgency changes throughout life. So here's a person who felt he was going to die. So what's he davening for?
A good
Good
burial.
burial.
Mhm.
Sure.
Mitzvahs tefillah lechavod Shabbos kaim hu b'kelchasa mibli levater b'chol hanik nogea lechoda shalmaka. Don't compromise the honor of the Shabbos queen. Kufat mesuyemet ichlit l'sayem lilmod the parsha shnai mikveh targum. He would then finish erev Shabbos. There's different shitos in the Shulchan Aruch. What's the order? Do you first take your shower and clip your nails, and then do shnai mikveh targum? Do you clip your nails first, and then take your shower, and then whatever different orders? But there is a minhag to do shnai mikveh targum, to read the parsha 2 times and 1 translation before Shabbos. With Netzvil mikveh be'erev Shabbos, he would do it before he went to the mikveh. That way he would be on a spiritual level of learning prior to going to the mikveh, which was he saw as part of his spiritual avodah in preparation for Shabbos. Right. Okay.
Thank you.